Hi, everybody. Coming on very late tonight. Couldn't be helped. 1,539 days since Richard was premeditatedly murdered on Fort Bliss. Internal. This was an inside job. It's called a Code Red. Um, his his murder was ordered. It was premeditated. It was a retaliation against his whistleblowing, against trafficking. And also, so the trafficking and Fort Bliss, and that's already established that that is connected because of the emergency intake center. And, if you're not able to read between the lines, I'll clarify that in Congress. They are asking, even President Trump in his speeches is asking, um, there are uh, some counts, there's this argument going on, but the latest I heard was 500,000. But it was, like 85,000 like a year ago. Now it's 325,000. Now it went up to 500,000. These are huge numbers, even 85,000, 325,000, 500,000 unaccompanied children. Okay? That is like for a mother, for a grandmother, for a Gigi, you know, that's a nightmare. Unaccompanied children is a nightmare, is a total nightmare because who's for them? They are totally vulnerable in so many ways. It's so heartbreaking. And they were trafficked, right? Where are they? They're trafficked. They're trafficked onto Fort Bliss. And then what happened to them? They're trafficked on a military installation. And it's so bad. And it's so bad. And we have corroboration that it's so bad. And now um, it's widely known that they're mostly dead. They're mostly dead. And then we had um, the port workers saying, we have to strike. Um, and the rumors are because the rumors, okay, and this all needs to be investigated. But I have to say it because so many have been calling out. These longshoremen have been calling out. Other law enforcement agents, police officers, agents have been calling out. There are cries. There are cries. And they're trafficking children for many purposes. And now most are dead. Most are dead. And, this is, so Richard absolutely was connecting the criminal trafficking with Fort Bliss. And then now we have um, information that is corroborated that he had information about the Walmart mass shooting that connected that with Fort Bliss. And so, if you're wondering why this was such a big murder, why they had to order his murder, it's because you have high ranking officials that are involved in the emergency intake center and the Walmart mass shooting. And Richard was whistleblowing and he was ordered to be murdered after having to be retaliated, let's discredit him and whatever. I- you know so you're going to hear more about that, and we're right about that. We've been right that something was really stinky, right? Something was really, well, this is really, really, really stinky. And we have been right all along. And now today we received a letter, and I don't know if you saw that I put that up. Let me go in here and check, make sure everything is working. Make sure. Yeah. So the letter is up there from Christina Sanchez, um, the attorney, and it's a signed letter, signed by her. And it shows that Team Find Richard Halliday is right about the El Paso Criminal Law Magistrate Court. We're right about that, y'all. They are violating. Now, I want to make this very clear. It's not the court that is a violation of the Texas Constitution. It is the panel of judges that are sitting on the court right now that are illegal. These individuals are not even the judges of that court. They are appointed. They cannot be appointed. That makes that panel of judges illegitimate. It's not the court that's illegitimate. It is the panel of judges that is making the entire court illegitimate. It's the judges, the impersonators, those that were appointed illegally since 2015. In 2015, a major change took place with this very distinct court. It is a distinct court. It's different from, there's no other court in Texas like it. We thought maybe there was one in Dallas like it, but not even that court is like the one in El Paso. The El Paso Criminal Law Magistrate Court is a quote distinct court, close quote. So what makes it distinct? In 2015, it received county-wide jurisdiction. County-wide jurisdiction and not under any elected judge. They're not subordinate to any other elected judge. You know, sometimes you get an appointed judge that is a surrogate under an elected judge. This is not the case for this court. Therefore, because it is a distinct court, because it has full county-wide jurisdiction, under the Texas Constitution, the requirement is that the judges be elected. So this court needs to have elected judges. And because it has appointed judges, there is a lack of oversight. There is a lack of accountability to the taxpayers that they make judgments over. Or I should say they arraign, they can put in prison, they, control the investigations of all the criminal cases. I mean, it's huge. It is so big. This is so big. I don't think El Paso will ever be the same because of this shakeup. And of course, with the emergency intake center in Fort Bliss and everything that we are absolutely right on. Um, can you, I think a huge change um, is coming. The floodgates of accountability have opened up because the violations are so big. The violations are so big. These, think about it. There's 5 individuals right now that are impersonating judges that are appointed. And, if they can't even show up to work, if they show up to work, they are absolutely criminals right now because it's been reported, it's been filed. And that's what we have learned through these 4 years is I think there's like some kind of psyop for, don't get me wrong, for the regular, because this is who we are, just the regular citizen that is not really in the law enforcement world. We were not in the law enforcement world at all. We're more in the medical side of the world, but not in the law enforcement. We have, we're law abiding. So we come into zero contact, very, very little contact with any kind of law enforcement community in our life. It's like uh, not even tickets, right? Not even. So we it's for us to not understand how this whole system works together. It's been a huge lesson, a huge lesson. And one of those, I think, psyops to the regular person is that it's so corrupt. It's so corrupt that you can't do anything. You have to just throw your hands up. You just have to go and pray that God handles it. Come, Lord Jesus, come. And I'm, a come, Lord Jesus, come person, right? I absolutely. But, you know, there's a lesson, uh, and that is as Christians, as law abiding citizens, which, Americans should be, right? We should want to be law abiding citizens so that our country can prosper. Um, because a land that is just a band of thieves is just, lawlessness is nothing is dead, right? It's gonna die. It's just gonna go into chaos. And so, for us to say everything is corrupt, you can't do anything, you just have to throw up your hands. Oh well, your son was murdered, or he's missing, and he was murdered, or whatever, and you can't do anything. This is the big green machine. That's all a lie. That is all a lie. And this letter is proof of that. The letter that we received from Sanchez, Christina Sanchez, is it Christina or Christina Sanchez, um, is so important because it is proof that you have the power, that Team Find Richard Halliday has the power, that we have more power than what we even know. And if we just put boot courage, right? Armor of God on, pull up those boots of courage, head into the storm, and we've been watching the storm all day today, off and on, off and on. We have a lot of people in Florida that we love and care about. Um, so we've been watching that storm. But you head into the storm, right? Fearless. Um, you have the Texas Constitution. In Texas, you have the Texas Constitution behind you. The Texas Constitution has your back. It's an amazing document. And in the United States, you have the Constitution has your back. It gives you rights. It gives you rights to open records. It gives you rights to hold these people accountable, to drive them to do their duty, whether they're corrupt or not. See, that is the psyop, or the lie, that or the false narrative that we are thought to believe, that you cannot possibly get through the corruption. But of course, you have to do some studying. Of course, you almost gotta turn into a paralegal or something with this. Yes, but you can do something, and hopefully, our case has blessed you, blessed everybody, and your own trials and tribulations, of injustice, and so many people have it, right? That we can encourage you to identify the crime, document the crime, and file it. File it. And the suggestions that we can give you is to, control your anger, because it's very hard. When and in our case, when you learn that there's this huge betrayal of Richard's command that ordered his death because they're involved in criminal activities that they want to cover up, You can get pretty angry because they're doing it with your own money, right? Taxpayers' money. And so you have to really control your anger and your grief. You know, you have to compartmentalize, right? Without getting desensitized because they've desensitized us so much. And you don't want to lose that humanity. You do want to cry. You do want to be sensitive to everything. You do want to view life as precious. And crime is so horrible. This is such a horrible, brutal death. And we can't lose sight of that. But writing the letters, you have to take a walk and shake it off, come back, and with a clear mind, write the letters. And there's lots of tools today to help you do that. And it does take time. It does. It takes support. It takes time. You have to sit down with your loved ones, and you just got to have a commitment to it. And but our point is, and it's your decision, in whatever troubles that you and tribulations that you face. But in our case, this was something that was so big that we couldn't throw our hands up to. We couldn't walk away from. We had to charge the gates of hell and hold them accountable, those that participated in the brutal murder and cover up of our son. And we've had success, right? We have the declaration of death, and we still have more to go because we are in the wave of accountability. And through all of it, we never set out to have to analyze the system there in El Paso. Um, but because of what they did to Richard and what he went through, like with the El Paso Criminal Law Magistrate Court, where you have the relative of Belen Rocha, the K-9 cop in the parking lot at midnight making a traffic stop, setting Richard up, arresting him, bringing him before the El Paso Criminal Magistrate Court, saying, I'm innocent. I am innocent. He never admitted to anything. He always maintained his innocence because he was innocent. And they put him in jail. And we just thought that the person impersonating a judge was kind of stinky. So we looked into it. It was kind of stinky. And when you're appointed, your loyalty is to whoever appointed you. And that needs to be investigated. Because it's not to the people that elected you like it should be. It's to the person or group of people, small group of people that have, political aspirations or political motives that appointed you. And so, and that is absolutely illegal when you are in a distinct court the size and scope and power of a magistrate court that has full countywide jurisdiction and handles just about 90% of the criminal cases and controls those investigations to the crime. And if you are up to no good and a leader and wealthy and you are want to make your wealth off of, You want to control the courts. You want to control investigations. You want to be able to call up your buddy and say, no subpoena there, no warrant there. Or you want to weaponize the court and retaliate against whoever wants to expose your criminal activity. And there seems to be a connection or a willingness by the media there in El Paso to look the other way. This is such a huge story, and I haven't seen it covered yet because it affects thousands of people's lives, thousands upon thousands of those who have been brought before that court, before individuals that have no authority at all to tell you what to do. And that includes Patrick Crusius. Patrick Crusius and Richard Halliday, and I don't want to put them in the same. Let's just talk about Patrick Crusius. He was brought before that court. That individual had no right at all to tell him anything. And he was arraigned by that court. So if you're wondering why Joe Spencer is now all of a sudden saying, oh, yeah, my client has autism, he has a severe mental health condition. Since he was 3, since he was 3, and everyone knew it, all the neighbors knew it. And here we are over 5 years later, and that's just happening right when we have submitted over and over again. We identified the crime, we documented the crime, and we filed it. We filed it with, for one, Christine Sanchez. And that letter is so big. She signed it. And she is saying this issue is so big that she doesn't even have any power to investigate it. It has to go to the top. And the top in Texas is right there with Attorney General Paxton. So that's where it went. Well, it's there. And this is a huge development, a huge breaking news development. And I was going to give, we're working on several different things. And of course, things don't go as fast as, we want them to go because things happen like hurricanes, right? But, just this hard drive of Richard's. Interesting that there seem to be deleted items on there, deleted files on there. And so to be able to go to experts, on data recovery is a big thing, is a really big thing. So that's why we posted that. And, the people involved in the murder and cover up of Richard, the retaliation murder and recovery of, along with, the Walmart mass shooting, along with so many other things, they're very bold. They've been doing this so long without a main challenge that they get very sloppy, very messy. And, praise God. Praise God, because that's how we have collected so much evidence. because they forgot to dot their I's and cross their T's. Um, and and they got too big. They got too big for their britches, and they needed to be exposed. Richard exposed them. Richard is a hero. He's such a hero. And uh, you're going to hear about more, that Richard has not been left alone. And that's all coming out. Um, it's going to be breaking news after breaking news. I think today, with the magistrate court panel of judges, that is absolutely violating the Texas Constitution. And I just want to make that distinction, that the court itself is a distinct court. It's absolutely allowed to be there. It's just that the panel of judges must be elected, not appointed. And that's where the problem is. Because when you have that kind of power, there has to be um, the the Texas Constitution has the people's back, right? And the Texas Constitution gives the people power to oversee these judges on such a powerful court. And how the Texas Constitution gives the people that power is by the vote, the election, the scrutiny of the election. And elections are a beautiful thing, because let me tell you, if Bill Hicks had to go through an election, he would never win. He is, if the truth came out, he's the bottom of the barrel. He's the bottom of the barrel. He's a criminal. And he had money problems. He had state bar problems. He had all kinds of problems. Why would you ever want to appoint him? Why would you ever want to elect him? And so, he could not hold up under the scrutiny of an election. And it is very, very telling that he was an, an appointment during a recess in the Texas Senate. So, because an appointment when the Senate is working, they would have to scrutinize his record. But because he was a recess appointment, his record didn't get scrutinized. And then, so everything is like handed to him, even though he's a criminal, and he schemed with Bob Moore and Justin Underwood to remove and be elected, who, right? A whole election, a duly elected district attorney, Yvonne Rosales, and elections are brutal. So her victory is huge. And he plotted, schemed to remove her and replace her. We have that in open records. That's hard evidence. And of course, with all the other evidence. So he could never hold up to that kind of scrutiny. And when he was given that appointment during a recess, so easy. He even messed that up, y'all. He messed that up. He couldn't even install himself. I tell you. And, this is my opinion, but I think that they purposely do not obey the law by signing the statement of officer, which is the anti-bribery statement, before the oath of office. They try to sign it afterwards, because then that makes that document null and void. Legally, that document is null and void. So if you perjured yourself, if you are, if you have been bribed, which in an article, um, Bill Hicks admits to being bribed. So, him not signing his statement of officer before, which is required by the Texas Constitution. I mean, it makes sense, right? If you're going to take the oath of office, you need to first swear that you are not under any obligation of a bribe. And he failed to do that. And so, because he failed to sign that before his oath of office, he is a usurper. He is in that. He's a fake DA. And we have a fake officer. We have a fake chief medical examiner. And we have fake impersonators as judges on the magistrate court. Lots of fake. It's the law enforcement, the criminal judicial system in El Paso is a fake, very costly though, costly on money and costly on lives. And so, how can a code red happen on Fort Bliss on a young soldier that's whistleblowing, that was a distinguished honor graduate, that was trying to protect children, trying to protect, a young mothers? How can that happen? It's because the criminal uh, judicial system was fake. Fake. I mean, the chief medical examiner since 2014, the magistrate court since 2015. And then you have um, the DA. And if you're ever wondering why there's like a pause, or like a little delay in all this retaliation and everything, it's because of the upset election by the people, something that was real that shook them up. And that was the election of Yvonne Rosales. That shook the fakeness up. These criminals that were faking their positions were so afraid of someone real coming in with real authority, with legitimate authority, identifying their crime, documenting their crime, and prosecuting their crime, because she is the prosecutor. And that's why she needs to come back. She doesn't even realize. Humbly, she needs to realize, humbly, from a gift of God through the Texas Constitution, through election process, that she was given the authority, the legitimate authority, to identify crime, document the crime and prosecute the crime. That is huge power and a blessing. And she shouldn't let anyone take that away from her. And she should humbly come back and do her job. It's, and I always, of course, I have Theodora behind me with Justinian, and I need to put up Robert the Bruce. And those are just uh, biographies, stories that have happened that have impacted my courage, the Halliday courage. And because look at the history of Robert the Bruce. It's never too late. He was absolutely done for as the King of Scotland. So everyone thought. He had been abandoned. He had betrayed his best friend and fighter, William Wallace, Braveheart. Everyone knows him as Braveheart. And he was in the middle of a storm. No kidding. Scotland, if you've lived in Ireland and Scotland, you absolutely know what storms are. Middle of a storm in a cave. And he rallied. He rallied by watching a spider. That's the story. The spider that would never give up, never say, "Oh, I'm done. This is too big for me. This is too hard for me." The the storm was tearing down that web, and that spider kept crawling back up and building its web. And the storm would come and blow and tear down the web, and the spider would go back up and build its web. And the story is Robert the Bruce, um, which is very interesting because he said he was born at Turnberry, Scotland, and of course you know that President Trump owns Turnberry, um, the hotel there, the uh, big piece of land that he turned into a golf course and all of that. Um, or he redid the golf course and built up that city again, that town. It was just a mess economically. Um, if you didn't know that, look that up. But that is said to be the birthplace of Robert the Bruce. And Robert the Bruce, being so humble in that cave and watching that spider never give up, said, "I need to be like the spider." And that's why when you see Robert the Bruce's kilt, inside the kilt is a little embroidered spider. And I'm telling that story because homeschooling, and it was through the McGuffey's Readers, right? McGuffey's Readers, different poems and everything like that. And you do your research on it, and you're learning all this stuff together. Of course, the boys were like, "That's a cool story, right? That's a cool story. The original Spider-Man, right?" Um, and when you learn about their swords and the size of them, these men were huge. They over 7 foot. William Wallace was over 7 foot tall. And Robert the Bruce and their swords just, so you remember these stories because they're so exciting. But at the same time, they live with you. It's kind of like biblical stories. They live with you. And when you meet up in a storm, or you're defeated, right? You're defeated by your own making, really. Robert the Bruce had little faith and tried to make a deal with the devil. And even with him making the deal with the devil, selling his countrymen out, he came back. He rallied. It's just, that's such an amazing story. And the moral of it is to never give up. Never give up. You're a soldier of God, and you can't expect that you'll never meet up with a storm, or that you will never meet up with some of your own shortcomings. And you've got to rally. You've got to put your pride aside and say, okay, okay, confession. It's a sacrament. It's the cure of souls. You confess. You say, "I screwed up, but now I'm going to be like the spider. I'm going to come back. I'm going to fight for what is right." And these stories and more, the whole story of Job, um, and his friends, talking in his ear, nonsense. And so much of the beginning of this investigation, people were talking in our ear nonsense, absolute nonsense. And we didn't have the experience to, or the knowledge of, what we have now, as far as who's who and what's what, and all the work that Team Find Richard Halliday has done is just and exposed and revealed and to El Paso and everything. But you just have this story that, oh, people are going to talk in your ear, they're going to whisper in your ear, and they can't be trusted. You have to really discern. You have to really discern who you can trust, who you can't trust, and you have to be calm with that. So, there's these stories are so important to learn history, um, to learn the biblical stories, to not be so into the pop culture, the day to day pop culture, um, to go into depth in history. And of course, we lived near the War College in Pennsylvania. My sister even worked at the War College there. And visiting the War College in Germany and in Pennsylvania and Carlisle. Um, you know, these generals, they have to go through these history lessons of these stories too. And they have to go through charm school because they cannot just react by their emotion. They have to learn diplomacy. And I've never had a diplomacy class. So, and neither has Rob. So it's just depending on our families and going through this, we've learned, okay, as much as we are absolutely emotional about what has happened in the retaliation, the murder, and the cover up of our son, um, we have to identify the crime, document the crime, file the crime. And that's a lot of work and a lot of time, but it's the way to go. And it works. And this letter today is testament to that. And we've gotten many, many more. But this one we felt that El Pasoans needed to have. That's why we posted it. El Pasoans need to have this letter because the El Paso Criminal Law Magistrate Court affects you all. Affects you all, not just our son's case, not just the Patrick Crusius Walmart mass shooting case, but so many. Since 2015, can you imagine how many cases need to be reviewed now? Wow. Excuse me. Yeah, that is I mean, so we wanted to let everyone know and see that letter because that's for everybody. That's for everybody that lives in El Paso County under that distinct court that has full county-wide jurisdiction and controls the criminal investigations. It controls the criminal investigations. And every member of the panel of judges absolutely from this posting cannot even show up for work. They cannot, this should shut down that court. They cannot show up for work because they have been now notified that they are supposed to be elected and that they are violating the Texas Constitution and violating everyone's rights that is brought before them. They they can't sit on that. They can't sit on that bench. They have no legal authority to sit on that bench, to put on the robe, to put the gavel in their hand. They are illegal. Now that just is mind blowing. It's so big. So big that this has to be referred to the top, A.G. Paxton. It and you know what's so absolutely crazy about this is that we have notified the media, y'all, and the media is just sitting on it. They're just sitting on it. I don't know if they know what to do because I think they've been told not to mention Richard's name unless it's part of like some kind of smear campaign, which they're all now notified that if they smear Richard, they are liable. And that's why Bob Moore is being investigated, and we got confirmation in writing that he is also under huge scrutiny. So, um, yeah, that it is. It's really a good day. Let me see. I did write some notes because there's so much breaking news about Bill Hicks, breaking news about the MAG court. Um, I forgot what I was all gonna say about Bill Hicks. Um, yeah. So I know it's pretty late, and it, we're still watching what is happening down in Florida. This has been really important for our family. Um, and it looked like that um, Hurricane Milton hit um, the Sarasota area, Bradenton area, as a category 3. And then as soon as the eye hit, um, it like dissipated. So, but I hear there's a lot of rain. The people of Florida are not out of trouble yet. The rains, I'm sure, did a lot of damage, and the winds did a lot of damage. Keep them in your prayers. And we're just praying constantly. And, you know, we're just really, because see, uh, they had been hit hard by Helene, Hurricane Helene, just weeks before. And there was a lot of debris that hadn't been cleaned up yet. And so, with those very fast winds, there was a lot of fear. I know that Governor of Florida, DeSantis, he was, getting everybody who had a truck to help pick up all this debris because, the flying debris would cause, so much damage. Um, it was really crazy down there getting ready for this storm. And, so there seems to be some good news. But, let's just wait. That we have to get through the night. So thank you so much for your prayers and your concerns about that. And, if you know things, keep us updated. We'll keep everyone else updated. Just like with this Mac Court information and with Richard and the confirmation that we have that's coming out. Hopefully, tomorrow the confirmation that Richard was right of his reporting about the emergency intake center, the the trafficking being connected to Fort Bliss, and also um, the what he knew about the El Paso uh, Walmart mass shooting and its connection to Fort Bliss. So, and there's more. There's so much more we're working on when it comes to Chris Martin, when it comes to Howell, Howell of Quantico, and the Hart family. And, it's more and even more than that. So thank you so much. And also the data recovery from the deleted, looks like, um, files off of Richard's hard drive. So thank you so much. God bless you, and we will be back tomorrow, God willing.